Good morning, Pipe Pals. How are you all doing? Holy Smoking Pipe Padre saying good morning to you on this beautiful gift of a day, autumnal day, a Saturday morning. Listening to some Giovanni Gabrieli in the background, the Echo Canzone. Well, I'm smoking this morning. Many of you may have remembered this beautiful, old, wonderful, gnarly Robert Burns Macaulay pipe. Aye, lads and lasses. There it is in all of its autumnal glory. Right. You could almost take it out and do some caber tossing with it. That's for sure. And in it, you might be wondering what I'm smoking in it. Well, I'm doing a little experiment this morning. Got some Navy Flake going on there. A couple of layers of Navy Flake from the briar patch that I picked up a couple of days ago. And as I was going through my pipe collection of tobaccos, I couldn't believe what I found. Maybe you'll probably be in amazement and awe and wonder. I found some Twisted Flake. Couldn't believe it. There it was as I unearthed, some of my tobaccos over there. And there it was, Twisted Flake. And I probably bought this in honor of the Hermeninator a long time ago, but it's still good. It's a good smoke, But anyway, we got some Navy Flake here, and I decided to top it off with a little bit of Twisted Flake and see how they marry up together. I got my old boy here. Haven't played with this lighter for quite a while. But anyway, that's all. That's what we're doing here. Got some coffee here at my elbow. If you're looking for the wee lass, the little wee lassie, the little kitty cat named Elsie, she's outside playing right now. Boy, that's good. Got a comment from somebody asking me about what's my favorite Navy Flake, and temper. I don't know. I guess there are several incarnations of Navy Flake. The flake is it's why we call it a flake. Because it's a flake.
Huge space that is St. Mark's in Venice.
So, instead of what we also refer to as ready rubbed, it's a flake. And that's good. Spicy. I think I haven't checked lately, but I think Twisted Flake has a little bit of perique in there. Because I'm getting a little bit of some peppery overtones. Put that in your sporin, lads and lasses. Oh, man. Well, today is just one of those rare, beautiful, early autumnal days. The late days of summer as it begins to, that little climatic estuary where it's not quite summer, it's not quite fall, it's that sweet, if you will, delicious time of year. And so I thought I'm going to go ahead and bring out my autumn pipe now. My old Robert Burns Macaulay pipe. I love this thing. It's so unique, and it's a poker type pipe. It sits, sit, good pipe, stay, good pipe. I almost said good kitty, but it's not a kitty, it's a pipe. So I would also call this Goldilocks weather. Not too hot, not too cold. It's just right. And the thing that you can make it really, you know, you can accentuate it, you can highlight it, you can celebrate it even, is when you decide to put some of your favorite tobaccos in one of your favorite pipes and just chill. And that's what we do. My goodness, that's so awesome. Now you're probably saying, well, why in the world did you light up your autumnal pipe? I used to call it my October or my Halloweeny pipe. And so I think I got this, gosh, probably 5 years ago. It's hard to believe because I was still living partly at the little cottage in the vineyard when I got this. I just moved to Elk Grove, but I was still keeping my little place in Green Valley for a number of months. But anyway, it was nice to have a little getaway and go back to my old home for a little while, but that couldn't last for much longer, so I had to move out, so I did. But anyway, so I kind of get a little nostalgic for going back there, but this is a pretty nice place here too. And so life is good. I hope life is going good for you too. It doesn't sound right grammatically, but I hope it's going good for you. Well, I do hope. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. So why am I making this video? Because I want to. Just like all of us, we want to make videos. We like making videos. Sharing our enjoyment of a fun hobby. Having a little conversation from time to time. Talking about the weightier matters in life. Like kitty cats. Oh, I have discovered all you cat people out there, people that love kitty cats. And I love doggies too, so don't think I'm, hating on dogs or ferrets. If you like ferrets, I think people in the UK have ferrets. They're illegal here in California, at least they used to be. I knew don't tell anybody, but I knew a padre that actually had a ferret. Yeah, kind of a cute little thing. And I've had a couple of cats who were ferret-like. I didn't even say little Elsie's kind of ferret-like. She's got this long, lanky little cat body that she's growing into. But the reason why I talk about cats is because, now that I'm a cat daddy, I guess, one of the things that it's my responsibility to do is provide her with cat toys. Yeah, cat toys. I'm a big cat toy, basically. That's all I am. I finally found my calling in life is to be a giant cat toy. And I find that out early, like 6 o'clock in the morning, when this little kitten decides that my feet are prey, and she decides to pounce on my big feet and starts, attacking my feet. And then that basically wakes me up. So actually, I'm kind of, it's Saturday, and sometimes I get a chance to sleep in just a wee bit. So I was a little bit, I wasn't too sanguine about the fact that I was being woken up at like almost 5:45. It was like, kitty, knock it off. But then she begins attacking the feet, then she begins to run around the house, then she begins to terrorize and attack everything that she can. My cat, I think, likes to play in her litter box too. That doesn't sound very appetizing. I know if you're having breakfast or whatever, lunch or dinner, I'm sorry to bring that image up, but some cats will go do their thing and then they're done. But my cat seems to like to play in her litter box. Oh, anyway, God help me. But anyway, so I found that one of the most fun cat toys for cats, and they love this.
And that was his fairy tale ballet called Anderson, after Hans Christian Andersen. Dvorak Chamber Orchestra played that.
Some of you who are cat people will know instantly what I'm referring to. But there is an intersection between cat ownership and pipe smoking. And are you ready for this? I hope you're sitting down. But believe it or not, I'm going to show you a cat toy that cats absolutely love. Here you go.
Timeless music all the time. You can hear classical music 24 hours a day.
Oh, sure, there we go.
Stream at capradio.org.
This is a cat toy.
Device with the Cat Radio app.
No, it's not a pipe cleaner. It's a cat toy. These were created for cats. It just happened that they also had an ancillary function for cleaning out pipes. But basically, these were really designed for cat toys. Okay? Who knew? Cat toys.
I remember learning from a very trusted
Little Elsie
no, not a family member,
absolutely adores this. And she just has hours and hours of fun playing with these little cat toy pipe cleaners. Who knew?
Kind of, sort of, but not quite. Here's the real story. He bought the sheet music. He bought
oh my goodness. Well,
folk tunes that he heard these bands playing
so
at the that was called El Salon Mexico. Here is Copeland's music, the Baltimore Symphony, led by
I wanted to talk to you today about I've been doing the 24-hour fasting this week. It's been the whole week of just 24 hours, one meal a day. And so I want to talk a little bit about fasting and this whole ketogenic diet thing. But first, I'll be right back. Hold on a second. I'll edit this out, but I'll be right back. Did you miss me? I'm back. So, some of you have been kind of, following the old padre when it comes to just, some basic health and fitness things. And so I've been, as most of you probably know, probably a little bit tired of hearing about it for some of you, but I've been on this ketogenic diet. What happened there? Did that just die? My old boy died. Well, it was kind of shooting out the flames there. Okay, but we still have more backups. That's one thing I remembered that I forgot. I meant to get more pipe fluid or butane fluid, Dunhill fluid for the lighters. Anyway, so I have been now officially on the ketogenic diet for 8 months. I've been incorporating, fasting, intermittent fasting. And so here's the thing, and I've done really well in the last 3 years to lose the weight, and then finding creative ways and sustainable ways to keep it off. And without going crazy, without kind of feeling like, oh gosh, I'm going to deprive myself, and then you kind of go through binge periods. I mean, I've certainly had those experiences. And, whether you want to look at them as setbacks or failures or whatever. But the thing is that, you can always recover from some of those things. Use a pipe cleaner, not a kitty cat. I mean, this kitty cat toy. Ever notice that the bent shapes, spigots, stems, whatever, the ones that seem to go down, they tend to be moisture trappers. So anyway, that being said, my question to myself that keeps coming up is this. So when, you know, the 22nd of December rolls around again, that's when I started this whole thing, will I, in some ways, go off of this thing and just go hog wild and just, you know, eat double chocolate overflow cakes and round table pizzas and junk food again? I actually gave up, interestingly enough, actually, last December, November and December, right on my birthday in December, I actually reintroduced having, you know, true junk food, you know, Mickey D's and Carl's Jr. and all that kind of stuff. I had done it 3 years without it. It was like 3 years. And I was like, wow. And I just thought, well, you know, and so again, I reintroduced some of that stuff to my life. And I'll have to be honest, I always pay a price. I always know that. I'll always pay a price for that. And in some ways, I remember my doctor, my new doctor up here kind of said, well, it sounds like your diet isn't quite, you haven't really adapted or adopted your diet. In other words, your way of eating it isn't really kind of like a part of you yet. It's just, it's something you're learning, but you haven't quite finalized that, you know, made it like, this is what I do. This is how I live. And to some extent, I think there's some truth to that. I had one of you said, well, you know, I don't know if I can give up things like chocolate and treats and things like that. And you know, I don't know if I'm trying to tell people to give up all these quote-unquote goodies and treats. I mean, I think there's a time and a place for them occasionally. You know, I certainly would not, you know, cast a negative glance your way if I saw you eating a slice of pizza or some birthday cake. I mean, I'm not going to judge you on that. But for me, I just know that sometimes these things snowball out of control, and I find myself overindulging all the time. And that's where I get into trouble. Now, I can say I've successfully had some wonderful experiences where I've actually, again, consciously, if you will, responsibly said, okay, I'm going to have this piece of cake, or this I'm going to, again, it's a conscious effort saying, okay, I've got a piece of cake here. I'm at a birthday party. And I've had a friend who, wonderful person who kind of taught me this little trick. And you kind of have like an eating buddy, you know, especially if you're both into the health and fitness thing. So she says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have some of this and some of this. But what we're going to do is, I'm going to take a bite and you're going to take a bite. And I thought, okay, that's cool. And then we're going to pass the plate on to somebody else. Interesting. Now they had, this was a birthday party, and they had two beautifully luscious, luxurious cheesecakes. One was a lemon meringue kind of one, or you know, and the other was a chocolate one. So we had both, but it was sort of like, we're going to take a bite, a nice bite, not a little, you know, stingy little, you know, minuscule thing, but a real bite of this cake, and we're going to enjoy it. And then we did that, and we had the lemony one first, cheesecake, and then the chocolate came around, had a bite of that. And I think we had maybe one extra bite of one of the other ones, like all three total, like three bites. And I had a cup of coffee with it. And I have to say that, as you know, I enjoyed it. I didn't overindulge in it. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. That's great. If I could do that all the time, that would be, wouldn't life be wonderful? So, as I get closer to my year anniversary, I'm just kind of in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, are you going to stick with this way of life? Or are you going to be kind of seduced into just going back to the kind of irresponsible and indulgence that you used to do? And because there's always a price, there's always a trade-off. I had a friend of mine one time said that in life is full of trade-offs. You know, it's sort of like this this new 24-hour fasting thing that I'm doing. Let's see, it's almost 9:30, close to maybe 14 hours into a fast. I feel fine. You know, I've got certainly a pipe going, but I got some coffee, and I've been drinking lots of water. One of the things I've realized that I don't drink a lot of water. I used to. I just forget. So my new early morning ritual is, before I even get my coffee, I mean, I did this once before, where, and I'm going to talk a little bit about two different experiences that I've had, where I did lose weight, and I felt great. But I drink a lot of water and just kind of get my system kind of recharged that way. And I find that really is a real benefit for the rest of the day, not just in the morning, but the rest of the day. And I think it helps out a lot. Oh, by the way, the YouTube gremlins are back. The last few videos I've made have been wonderful. They haven't hit me on my background music, but the last one I saw what they did. I don't know what. Can't figure those folks out. Now, as I told you earlier in the beginning of the video, I started I loaded the pipe, the first couple of layers, with Navy Flake. And I topped it off with Twisted Flake. Now, Twisted Flake, I think, has, like I said, a little bit of had a little bit more sweetness to it. The Navy Flake is a little less sweet. It's an enjoyable, satisfying tobacco, but it's not. It just seems to be a little less pronounced than the Twisted Flake. Now, you heard about Bob's Red Mill, which leads me into talking about another thing I'm discovering again. Even on a ketogenic diet, I'm now discovering that resistant starch is really, really, really important to have. Now, I'm going to explain that in a minute. Now, you think of starch, you think, oh, high carbohydrates, oh, that's bad, you know, and again, it'll knock you out of ketosis. Absolutely. You have a big bowl of, you know, mashed potatoes or a baked potato, and big bowl of steaming rice, and you betcha it's gonna knock you out of ketosis real fast. And that's something you want to completely avoid at all costs. And so again, 8 months of the ketogenic diet, haven't really had a lot of quote unquote high refined carbohydrates. So, and that's fine. And again, I don't miss it that much. mostly the carbohydrates that we all eat are the empty calorie high carbohydrates, you know, potato chips and cookies and, you know, pasta and all that kind of stuff. But so anyway, I was listening to, again, part of this whole thing is not so much losing weight, but, you know, burning off the last bit of fat. And, but in order to do that, you have to be able to do two things. You have to be able to assimilate the food that you eat. So you have to, if you're eating good, healthy food, that's the first thing. Again, drinking the water, that's kind of a given. But the other thing is that your body has to be able to assimilate the food that you're eating. And if it doesn't, well, that's a problem. And part of the problem is because of our gut biome, the large intestine. It doesn't have all the good bugs that we need to, you know, break down and assimilate and then eventually eliminate what we've eaten. So again, as I'm doing the ketogenic diet plus the 24-hour fasting, or the, you know, the 1 meal a day thing, and I've been doing that now for 6 days. The thing is that it's sort of like, okay, you eat a healthy meal and you let that process. Instead of constantly shoving food in your mouth all the time, snacking and eating all sorts of stuff, even healthy stuff, is you're constantly feeding, the body just doesn't, I don't think, has the ability to assimilate and then eventually eliminate in this ebb and flow kind of a cycle. You know, it's a cycle. And if you're constantly interrupting the cycle, it's not, you know, well, that's what you're doing. You're just interrupting it. So, but the last part of the cycle is the final assimilation and basically elimination. And if you don't have the good bugs in our tummies or our large intestine, which help to break down the rest of it and then easily eliminate it, then you get constipated, you get plugged up, and then that's where you get all your problems. So I discovered, this was like 2 weeks ago, this video on resistant starch. And I've heard of resistant starch, but I didn't quite understand what it was. I just thought it meant eating, you know, carbohydrates again, but not highly processed, but basically potatoes and rice and things like that. But if you're in a ketogenic diet, you just stay away from the carbohydrates because they break down instantly. They're spiking your glucose and your insulin, and that knocks you out of ketosis. But resistant starch is two things. One, the reason why they call it resistant starch is because it does not get assimilated rapidly like normal carbohydrates do, spiking your insulin and your blood sugar, because they pass through the small intestine and then they get finally assimilated in the large intestine, and the large intestine is where they begin to that final process of decomposition or whatever, and breaking it all down and then removing it. So basically what you're doing is, when you eat a resistant starch, you're not eating it for yourself, but you're actually feeding your gut biome. That's what you're doing. And you need that. So I noticed on the ketogenic diet, even though I was eating mostly vegetables and meat, things were not moving. That's all I'll say. You know, it's like sometimes it would be days, you know. Now again, I was kind of eating 1 meal a day, not intentionally, but it was kind of working out to that. Maybe 2 meals a day, but basically 1 meal. And I was going, nothing's coming out. I know, too much information. But, and again, part of that is just the nature of the ketogenic diet. That's one of the side things you do to either experience constipation, or you don't have, because if you're eating, your body begins to say, oh, I'm getting some nutrients here. It probably assimilates them and breaks them down now because it's not eating junk. And, you know, if you're eating bad stuff, it's going to want to eliminate that as quickly as possible. But if you're actually eating healthy things, it's probably going to hold on to that and break it down and use it for what it's designed for, nourishment and you know, protein synthesis and all that good stuff. So anyway, so I was concerned about that in the beginning, but my doctor said not to worry about it if you're on a ketogenic diet. It's kind of part of the process as your body begins to readapt to this new way of eating. Okay, so after about 3 or 4 months, things kind of started, you know, literally moving along as they're supposed to, which was good. But now, if I discover resistant starch, that has really helped tremendously in just that final process. And basically what resistant starch is again, it's a starch that goes through the small intestine, so it's not metabolized as glucose. So you're not going to get a spike, insulin or glucose spike. And it goes into feeding the large intestine, if that makes sense. And that's where all the healthy bugs start eating and getting their nourishment so that they can do their job to finalize the elimination process. That's the way I understand it. So anyway, some forms of resistant starch, interestingly enough, and I was doing this by accident my first couple of years, even though I wasn't totally in ketosis, when I was just eating healthy. One of the things that I would do, and what basically resistant starch is, you can get, when they mention Bob's Red Mill, is you can get what's called Bob's Red Mill unmodified, or is it unmodified potato starch, not flour, but potato starch. And it doesn't have any flavor to it, but basically you put it in cold water, maybe a tablespoon or two, mix it up, and it's a probiotic, is what it really is. So you drink that. I drink it at night, so, you know, helps, you know, during the night. It gets, you know, washed through my system. And then anything on top of that, whatever I eat the next day, the gut biomes, good little bacteria guys down there, they're ready to do their job, okay? So, but I found out that resistant starch also, really what it is either raw potatoes, uncooked, raw, cold potatoes, just like jicama. I always like jicama. But anyway, so you'd eat a little bit of that. Or you can cook potatoes or even white rice, but here's the trick. You've got to cool it down. You've got to put it in the refrigerator and let it cool for a couple hours. Now, some of you might say, ooh, yucky, cold mashed potatoes? Ooh, cold rice? Well, you could make a good old-fashioned German potato salad, cold potatoes. That would work. Or you could maybe make a nice rice salad with some, you know, rice, again, the cold rice. And that would work as well. But what I was doing by accident, and this is something I love, is I like sweet potatoes or yams. And what I would do is I cooked them, and sometimes we get these really big fat yams. And so I cut off a little medallion. After I cooked it, I cool it, put it in the refrigerator overnight. Then at my next meal in the afternoon, following day, I cut like a little medallion. I wouldn't heat it up. I put some little cinnamon and some allspice on there, and it would taste to me like little pumpkin pie. And I was doing that kind of instinctively, and I remember doing that, and I would go, you know, I always feel good when I eat these yams or sweet potatoes. So that was one of the things that I discovered about resistant starch by accident. But then just like I said, a couple weeks ago, I got a video on that, which really explains what's going on with resistant starch. So I'm probably looking forward to, you know, baking a nice yam or sweet potato today, and again letting it cool, putting it in the refrigerator, and then and again you could cook a big one, and then they will last you almost a week, because all you're doing is you're just cutting off a little medallion, you know, maybe about that thick, and it's cold, and then you can season it up with, like I said, allspice and cinnamon. You can probably put a little stevia on it. You don't need to. And oh, I would enjoy that. Or butternut squash, love that. You know, again, but as it's cold, the butternut squash to me, again, if you put a little bit of those spices on there with maybe a little bit of whipped cream or heavy cream, oh man, it's like pumpkin pie. Oh, I love it. And this is the time of year for that. Be right back. Okay, back again. One of the things I like about this Dunhill lighter is I can adjust the flame on the fly, whereas on the old boy you got to do it this way, and you need a little tool to do it. So good design on this one. Okay, one last thing I want to talk about. Doggone it. Lights go off all the time. Now I'm getting down to the Navy Flake. Really good. Okay. You know, being the old Hoy Smoking Pie Padre, I guess I can talk about religion and faith and God from time to time. It's part of what I do. And I actually noticed this morning, believe it or not, which was amazing, an actual positive, almost positive article on faith, and I wish I was doing ScreenFlow, I'd show you, on the Huffington Post, of all things. However, I was a little bit nervous and upset because they had a little blurb off to the side and saying, if you find this article offensive, they made a big excuse. Well, this is a freelance writer, and they're not really, they're just somebody that posts to our website from time to time, but if you find it offensive, you can flag it if you want. I'm thinking, oh, come on. But the article was about a young woman, I'm assuming a young woman, a woman who is going to Harvard Divinity School, of all places. This is really good. I think we're truly in the Navy Flake now. We're in the Navy Flake now. Oh, this is good. But so she basically wrote a very positive article about faith, which is wonderful. And so I read the article, and I thought it was great. Didn't have really a denominational flavor or overtone, not that it needs that, but the thing was that it just was a very rare article that didn't, you know, lampoon or attack a person, you know, a person's faith. It's very encouraging. In fact, the woman talks about how she would compare herself with the other people that were going to Harvard Business School. You know, there were two, like, you know, she says, you know, I have friends that were going to Harvard Business School, and here I am going to the Divinity School, and they're, you know, they're just kind of two different campuses almost. You know, there was this highly competitive, you know, success-driven thing about, you know, the Harvard Business School. She made some friends, and, you know, in the course of their friendship, they would talk about their different, you know, courses of study and their life's ambition, you know, what they want to do with the rest of their lives after they leave Harvard. Veritas, right? So I thought that was just a wonderful article. But at the end, which I thought was wonderful, again, I know a lot of atheists out there would just, you know, oh gosh, I can't believe you're actually saying these things. And she kind of echoes. This weekend, we're going to canonize, celebrate the canonization of Mother Teresa of Calcutta. But she said, you know, I realized, and she said, I went into the chapel to pray, and God spoke to me. And I'm like going, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. Because most people just roll their eyes. Oh yeah, God spoke to you. Right. But she said, you know, I realized that, you know, the difference between my friends who were going to Harvard Business School and me going to Harvard Divinity School was simply that, you know, in my life's course, the course of my life, I'm not going to be called to be successful. I'm going to be called to become a miracle. And I thought, that's wonderful. She says that was what God was calling her to be. Not a success, but a miracle. And I just thought, wow, that's a very positive, you know, non-threatening, I think, beautiful proposition. You know, there was an old TV evangelist lady many years ago. Her name was Catherine Kuhlman, and she would always begin her TV show by saying, I believe in miracles because I believe in God. I just thought that was so positive. I love that. So I think that and this is what I'm going to end with today. I am coming to an end, as we all are. And that is that I think part of the problem, to be honest with you, pipe pals and gals, is that maybe just my humble opinion, we really kind of look at religion and God and faith, and whether it's, you know, we're talking about, excuse me, I scratched my nose there, afterlife, all those things that, you know, people poo-poo these days, and kind of, you know, again, like I said, they kind of cast a wary eye at, you know, propositions of faith. I think part of the problem is, and has been for the last number of decades, is that we look at a religion as kind of a consumer product. You know, in other words, what do I get out of it? And that's, I think, therein lies the problem, is if we approach religion as, well, what do I get out of this? You know, like my diet, our diets, you know, our jobs, our relationships. You know, there's kind of this, there's maybe a reciprocation of, I'm going to invest either time, effort, money, affection, belief, whatever it is, energy, and I'm going to reap something from that, hopefully. And I think that that's part of the problem, is that we're looking at it as a consumer product. And when we do that, then in some regards, we'll probably find that, well, maybe the propositions of religious faith don't equal, they don't add up, they don't give me the result that I'm looking for, quote unquote, whatever that is. And I think that maybe in some ways it's kind of antithetical to what faith is. Faith is not, well, supposedly I'm going to do these religious things, and I'm going to, hopefully that God's going to somehow magically take away my problems, or take away, you know, this or that, or somehow make my life better or something. I mean, I would say people that have faith probably have problems just like everybody else. But I think that it's in that willingness to believe, you know, without scientific proof. I mean, science can't prove the existence of God, but science cannot also prove the non-existence of God either. So I just thought that was a refreshing article, and I just think that people, if you don't believe, that's fine. No one's forcing you to believe. But I think people shortchange themselves, or they kind of they cheat themselves by not. Again, there's science and reason, but there's also faith, and that's a whole different, you know, mindset. Literally, it's a whole different way of looking at the world. Because after all, the world is, you know, we think because we're so, you know, we think we're so technologically advanced, and we have all these, and we can figure out all these answers. The known universe, I mean, we've only seen, I mean, we haven't seen anything, really. I mean, we have telescopes that show us the vastness of space, and, you know, we have our explorers that go out to places, you know, incredibly, like Mars, the surface of Mars, and looking at the planets, moons of other planets, and things of that nature. Amazing things, to be sure. But it's like living in your bedroom and sometimes discovering that you have a bigger house, and you have no concept that you live in a neighborhood or even a nation. You know, so you don't know everything. You couldn't possibly know everything. You know, that's all faith really does, is it opens you up to even greater horizons of the infinite, I think. So that's my pipe ponderings for today on the 3rd of September 2016. So again, please, you know, hopefully you can get a time to just sit and ponder your life, you know, and your metaphysics, whatever they may be, with an enjoyable pipe. So talk to you later, pipe pals. Light up your world, light up your pipe. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.